Empire Earth. Chances are, you've probably never even played this game, or even know that this game even exists. It's pretty obscure these days, and nobody even plays it anymore. But I do, for some reason. Why, you might ask? Because, personally, I think it's kinda neat. Today, I'm gonna talk to you about why I think Empire Earth is, in fact, neat. Part of the reason why this game is so obscure these days is that the series itself has somewhat of a tragic backstory. In short, the game was the brainchild of former Age of Empires developer Rick Goodman. You see, Rick Goodman wanted Age of Empires to be more ambitious than it was, and when he didn't get that, he decided to start development on his own game with the help of his new studio, Stainless Steel Studios. Development on Empire Earth began around 1998, a year after AoE's release, and the game itself was released to the public on November 13th, 2001. Like Rick Goodman planned, the game proved to be very ambitious, featuring a much longer time scale as well as the game using 3D models as opposed to sprites like Age of Empires did. However, the game had its issues, mostly in regards to the AI being an absolute bastard. Holy shit! How can I compete with this? I'm playing on medium! It's these issues in which Stainless Steel lost its development rights on the game by the game's publisher, Sierra Entertainment, with the game's expansion being developed by a different company, Mad Dog Software, who you probably know today as Rockstar New England, the main developers behind Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto. So yeah, small world, isn't it? Unfortunately, Stainless Steel wasn't as lucky, and the studio closed around 2005. Right, if I were to describe this game, I would describe it as Age of Empires on crack. The game is a real-time strategy game similar to Age of Empires, but unlike Age of Empires, where they focus on one time period, being ancient times, medieval times, mythological times, etc., Empire Earth spans all of history, even going into the future with robots and everything. Wow, don't these robots look so cool? Oh, they're not that cool. Shut up, they're pretty cool. Also, there are people that can create natural disasters, and towers that can convert units to one side. Some of the later games can get even weirder, but that's a video for another day. I assume those that are watching this are younger than me and don't even know what any of these things mean. You probably don't even know what an RTS game is. Well, I, the resident RTS understander here, will tell you how to play the game. But first, if you're wondering where you can find Empire Earth, it's not on Steam, but on another site called GOG.com. Thankfully, it's quite cheap, and it goes on sale quite often. And you might hear something that it might not be compatible with modern Windows versions. If you bought the game through GOG, however, it's really not that big of an issue, as it has been patched since then. But if you say, for example, pirated the game, then you might have some issues. Thankfully, there are several tutorials online which can help you fix the issue, so go check those out. Before we get on to gameplay, however, there's something I want to talk about. The multiplayer is pretty much dead, gone dead. Unless you want to try third-party servers for multiplayer, it really doesn't matter anyway. I only play on single player, so that's what we'll be talking about. There are two different single-player options, campaigns and random map. Campaigns are essentially the story mode of the game. There's 8 of these campaigns across both the base game and expansion. I might create a separate video going into depth into all these campaigns, because they do get pretty wild. So if that type of video sounds interesting to you, feel free to talk about it in the comments. Random map is just a generic game of Empire Earth. You can adjust the type of map, the player colors, the teams. There's quite a lot of things you can do, so feel free to mess around with it if you like. But for now, let's actually continue with the game itself. Normally in these type of games, you will pick your civilization at the beginning. However, in Empire Earth, you pick your civilizations right after the game begins by clicking this crown icon and choosing there. So why would Empire Earth have you choose civs like this? Well, I have no idea, honestly. In the expansion of the game, there are certain bonuses to these civilizations that make them stand out. For example, Babylon has access to the Priest Tower, which is certainly the most balanced thing in the whole game. It's not. Each civ is also specialized between different ages, so that if you feel strongest during a certain age, you can pick either the Kingdoms of Italy, or Italy. Yeah, they really pick their civs like this. You can also create your own custom civs by going through here and make something completely broken. Balance be damned. Oh, what's that? You don't know what an age is? Alright, I'll tell you. Ages, or epochs as they are called in this game, tell you what level of technology you are at, and what technologies you can research. In order to advance to the ages, you have to construct a number of buildings. If you construct enough buildings, usually 2, you're able to advance through the epochs by using the capital building or a town center. There are 14 epochs in total, 15 if you count Art of Conquest. You start in the prehistoric age with all the cavemen. But after that, you eventually advance until you reach Nano-Age robots. Each age has its own types of units, with you gaining some units while also getting rid of some units as they become obsolete. For example, archers cannot be trained from the Imperial Age on because at this point, we have guns at the barracks, which make archers virtually obsolete. Wait, you said. What is a tech? How do I gather? Does it feel like I'm going a bit too fast? Alright, I'll dial it back a bit. Citizens are used to gather 5 different resources: food, wood, gold, stone, and iron. You need these not only to create more units such as citizens and soldiers, but also to advance technologies. Did I mention there are technologies? You have to advance them, otherwise your base will stay caveman. And you don't want that. You want the cool robots, right? Yeah, of course you do. But in order to get those cool robots, you have to gather a lot of resources. To make gathering more efficient, citizens can create settlements. You can also populate the citizens inside the settlement to make them even more efficient. And if you populate a settlement with enough citizens, you can turn them into town centers, which have the ability to create their own citizens. And if you populate enough citizens within a town center, they can turn it into another capital. Gathering resources is just one half of the experience, however. You also have to build up an army because there is another base with the same goals as you. And that base is cringe! You don't like cringe, do you? So in order to defeat the cringe, you have to build up an army. However, you need to build certain buildings like barracks, archery ranges, stables, among other things. If you advance through the ages, you also have the ability to create more types of buildings, such as the airport. There are several different types of units as well, not just whether they are infantry or cavalry, but also their type of damage, and that determines which type of units they are strong against. For example, Pierce units, like the Phalanx, are strong against shock units, such as the Horseman. If you've ever played an RTS game before, this should all be familiar to you. However, as the ages progress, the system gets a lot more complicated. What starts as a simple rock, paper, scissors dynamic suddenly turns into this. Yeah. Good luck trying to figure that out. I went over the basics. However, I also want to talk about other things you can do, and some of the more wild aspects in the game. For example, these guys I mentioned earlier. Prophets are units that can be created out of the temple, whose specialty is to form natural disasters, which include things like firestorms and hurricanes. And that's not the only thing that sets it apart from other RTS games. Unlike most games in the genre, houses do not increase population. Instead, they increase morale, which makes your units a lot stronger and harder to kill. Heroes can also increase morale as well, but only the warrior heroes can. Yes, there are hero types as well. Thankfully, there are only 2 types of heroes, these being warriors, which I mentioned earlier, and strategists. Strategists have the ability to do a battle cry, which decreases the morale of enemy units. They can also heal units as well. I just thought I'd add that because I know if I didn't, somebody in the comments is gonna say, "Oh, she forgot to say they can also heal units." Well, I didn't forget, alright? We're good. Alright? In the expansion, they added space into the game, and while most people would say it's just retextured water, well, I guess they're not wrong there. However, you can only access space through the Space Age, which comes right after the Nano Age, in case you're wondering. Like most games of the genre, there is also a custom scenario editor. You can make your own scenarios with your own terrain, factions, such and such. You can also create your own campaigns using these scenarios, which, if you ever wanted to do that, well, there you go. So why am I talking about this game in the first place? I mean, the game is literally older than me. Shouldn't I talk about games my age group plays, like Fortnite? I know people really don't play Fortnite anymore, but still. Well, because to me, Empire Earth is a great source of nostalgia. I grew up playing this game as well as other real-time strategy games such as Age of Empires and Rise of Nations. Not the Roblox kind, although I did play a lot of Roblox back in the day. I remember when I was young, I would see my dad playing these games, and I thought to my young self, wow, that thing my dad is doing? That looks cool. So I ended up playing with him and having lots of fun. I would later get my own computer and play the games in my own time. Perhaps my favorite part of Empire Earth would have to be the campaign missions. I had a lot of fun playing through those. It's kinda strange knowing that I'm probably the only Zoomer out there that actually plays this game. I feel that if this game ever gets a remake, like it should, I think a lot more people would get into Empire Earth. I feel that the game has a lot of untapped potential, even with its limits. At the end of the day, for what it's worth, Empire Earth will always have a special place in my heart, and I highly recommend you play it. So yeah, that's the video. I might do the other Empire Earth games in the future, but not now. I want to do other things. Also, the robots are actually called cybers. I lied to you all.